Imagine a world without books, newspapers, or even post-it notes. A world where writing is a luxury and knowledge is confined to the wealthy and the elite. In this world, the idea of mass communication seems impossible. But 2,000 years ago, a breakthrough invention changed everything. It made information cheaper, faster, and more accessible, forever altering the course of history. This is the story of paper, the humble invention that built empires, fueled revolutions, and became the cornerstone of modern society. It's also a tale of how a simple sheet of material revolutionized the world, not in a single moment, but over centuries of innovation. Before paper, civilizations had to get creative with their writing surfaces. But let's face it, those surfaces weren't exactly practical. In Mesopotamia, scribes carved symbols into clay tablets. These were durable but heavy, and not exactly portable. If you wanted to carry a book, you needed a backpack full of bricks. Not very convenient, right? In ancient Egypt, papyrus was the material of choice. Made from reeds along the Nile, it was a step up from clay in terms of flexibility and weight. But it had one major flaw. It was fragile. Get it wet, and it was done for. Imagine trying to write a letter on a material that could literally disintegrate in the rain. Over in China, people used bamboo scrolls. While bamboo was durable and readily available, the scrolls were bulky and hard to transport. In order to write an entire book, you would have to carry around something heavier than your suitcase at the airport. Europe wasn't much better with its parchment, made from animal skins. A single book required dozens of sheep. A little impractical, wouldn't you say? Clearly, the world needed something better. Enter Cai Lun, a Chinese court official who would become one of the most influential figures in human history. Around 105 CE, Cai Lun began to experiment with ways to make a lighter, more durable writing material that could be mass-produced. Up to this point, writing surfaces were reserved for the elite, but Cai Lun wanted to make writing accessible to everyone. At the time, Chinese scholars were using silk scrolls, beautiful but extremely expensive. Bamboo scrolls were available but still too bulky, and while papyrus was used in China, it wasn't ideal. Cai Lun's genius came from using plant fibers. By soaking tree bark, hemp, old fishing nets, and even worn-out rags in water, pounding them into a pulp, and pressing that pulp into thin sheets, he created a material that was flexible, smooth, and cheap. For the first time in history, paper had arrived. This process wasn't instantaneous. It took trial and error, years of experimentation. But once Cai Lun perfected the method, paper was born, and it would change the world forever. For centuries, paper-making was a Chinese secret. The first paper wasn't just used for books, it was also employed in government documents, military records, and even money. By the 7th century, the Chinese had begun to use paper to create the world's first printed currency, a revolutionary step in the economic development of the empire. But paper's use didn't stop there. By the 6th century, the Chinese had already figured out something that many people would find surprising: toilet paper. That's right. The Chinese were using paper for hygiene over 1,300 years before it became common in Europe. In fact, the Chinese imperial court was producing 750,000 sheets of toilet paper per year by the 14th century. It was clear that paper wasn't just a tool for writing. It was quickly becoming an integral part of everyday life. But while China thrived with this new technology, the rest of the world was still using older, more cumbersome materials. Despite the Chinese keeping papermaking a closely guarded secret, the secret was eventually spilled. How? It all began with the Battle of Talas in 751 CE. This battle was fought between the Chinese Tang dynasty and the Abbasid Caliphate in present-day Central Asia. After the Abbasid forces defeated the Chinese, they captured Chinese papermakers and put them to work. Instead of executing these craftsmen, the Abbasid rulers saw an opportunity. They set up paper mills in the city of Samarkand, marking the beginning of the spread of paper-making techniques to the rest of the world. Soon after, paper began to spread through the Islamic world. Scholars in the Middle East quickly realized its value for preserving scientific knowledge and making the works of Greek and Roman philosophers more accessible. By the 9th century, paper had reached the Mediterranean and parts of Europe. But even with this newfound availability, Europe was hesitant to adopt paper, for a while anyway. In medieval Europe, parchment was still the go-to material for writing. Parchment, made from animal skins, was durable but expensive. A single book might require dozens of animals to be slaughtered, making books rare and valuable. The Church in particular was not convinced by the new invention of paper. Many clerics thought paper was too flimsy and unworthy of serious religious texts. As late as the 14th century, there were debates about whether paper could even be used to print the Bible. But the pressure for cheaper, more accessible books was growing, especially as demand for literature and knowledge exploded. This led to a game-changing moment in 1440 when Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press. Suddenly, books could be printed in mass quantities, and for the first time, paper was not just for the elite, it was available to everyone. The Gutenberg press revolutionized knowledge, and with it, paper. The Renaissance, the Reformation, and the scientific revolution were all powered by the cheap availability of paper, making mass education a reality and ideas more accessible than ever before. Fast forward to today, and paper is still an integral part of our lives. Even in the digital age, we rely on paper for books, newspapers, packaging, medical supplies, and much more. We also use paper in ways that Cai Lun never could have imagined. For example, scientists are creating biodegradable paper to replace plastic packaging, electronic paper for flexible screens, and even paper batteries, a groundbreaking development that could lead to new, sustainable energy sources. Did you know that 80% of the world's currency is still printed on paper? From coins to banknotes, paper is essential for global trade and commerce. And beyond money, it's used to communicate, advertise, and record history. Despite the rise of digital technology, paper remains one of the most versatile materials on Earth. Whether it's a simple notebook, a critical medical document, or a high-tech display, paper continues to shape the future of our world. Think about this. Without paper, the modern world would not exist in the way we know it today. No books, no newspapers, no mass education, perhaps no internet as we know it. From ancient China to the digital revolution, paper has been the silent force behind human progress. It has preserved the knowledge of the ancients, sparked revolutions, and enabled innovation across centuries. And the next time you hold a simple sheet of paper, take a moment to appreciate the 2,000 years of history in your hands. Cai Lun may have invented paper, but his legacy is still felt in nearly every aspect of our daily lives. But here's the big question. Will paper disappear in the digital age, or will it continue to evolve? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more amazing stories of world-changing inventions.